Okay, this is Jax, and this is what my parents didn't know. Today we're going to talk about coping skills. I was on Twitter. Okay, I'm with my daughter. My daughter has requested anonymity, and she's very fidgety, so she is tearing apart a wrapper that was on her chocolate milk, and she's making sure that there are at least 10,000 strips that she is not so carefully discarding from her hands. Okay, so anyhow, she's going to be our special guest. She wants limited engagement. But she also enjoys these videos. Am I wrong? I am wrong?
No, you're wrong.
Oh, no, I'm not wrong. Okay. She does enjoy these videos. So what we're going to talk about is the result of, there was somebody on Twitter, and they were talking about, how do I get out of my head? How do I get out of my head? The more I explore Twitter, the more I realize that people are really struggling with their thoughts. That makes me feel amazing in the sense that I've learned a lot about it, because I've struggled with that for most of my life, honestly. However, it hasn't always been toxic content that I've been struggling with. So today we're just going to talk about a little bit of like why and how we get stuck in our heads, and then what to do about it. So, okay, let's say you have something in your mind, and that thing in your mind is kind of driving you nuts, but you can't stop thinking about it, okay? And so what I recommend you do is, one, identify what the thought is. What is the subject of the thought, okay? And then identify what the emotion is that you're feeling, okay? Once you have those two things understood, maybe write it down for yourself, because it becomes important to know, this is where I'm at, this is what's on my mind. Then I recommend just accepting the emotion that you're feeling, accepting the subject of that's causing that emotion, and try to focus on something else. Okay, and you're going to get back to it. This is not let's just try to do our best to forget about it. But you do want to focus on something else, and the reason why is because you want to unplug the power that emotion is having on your mind, and that subject is having on your mind, so that you're able to not only move on with your day, but also to process the thing that's staying and monopolizing your mind. So to focus, what I recommend is a couple of things. One is called diaphragmatic breathing and belly breathing. And belly breathing is basically, you breathe into your nose, okay, and you count. You do it slowly. You count, start at like 4, and then when you get to 4, release the air slowly and try to count to 8. You want to try to double your number when you exhale. So if you do this over and over again, you want to plant your feet solid on the ground, preferably with no shoes on. You want to relax your body the best you can, and you want to do this for a couple of minutes. And you're going to get lightheaded. You're going to get maybe a little sleepy and serene. Even if you're suffering from insomnia, this can happen. And once you get to that place, your heart has calmed down. You've managed to focus on something other than your thoughts. Okay? If that doesn't work, another thing that you can do is you can exercise. That helps a lot. You can take a shower. I wouldn't recommend a bath unless a bath shuts down your brain. You can draw. Utilize your self-care habits, whatever it is that you do, that's just you for yourself. If that doesn't work, you can vent it to someone. If you don't have a friend or a family member that you can rely on to just share whatever you have to say, you can call a crisis counselor and talk to them over the phone, vent how you feel, and they'll more than likely give you some of the coping skills, some advice on the coping skills. Another thing you can do, and I just learned this last week, you can take a bowl, fill it with water, fill it with some ice, get it nice and cold, and then dip your face into it. And the logic behind that, from the way it was explained to me, was it creates cold in your head, in your face. And when you're done, the blood has to come and basically warm you up. So it's kind of like giving yourself like a little bit of a brain, pop. So those are some things that you can do to try to shift your focus away from the thing that's capitalizing your mind. Now, if you do not try to do some of this stuff, what's going to happen is the issue, that subject and that emotion is just going to get bigger. Okay? And you're going to add other thoughts, other concerns to your already overwhelmed mind. And once that happens, and for most of us that learn this, it's already happened or happening. Once that happens, where you're overwhelmed with one thing, you start bringing in other things. You may be upset about something that happened with one of your friends, and now all of a sudden you're upset with, I need a car, or I need to fix my car. Then it goes my school, my work. It just starts compounding more and more crap. Okay, you need to vent it. We talk about, and this is something that maybe you could talk about if you want. Can you talk about the volcano? You can say no if you don't want to. Go ahead.
So basically, like, I don't know how to explain it.
Okay. So imagine your emotions and your thoughts. They're like lava, okay? And how you express yourself, or try not to express yourself, is the volcano that lava is under. Okay, if you do not vent like a geyser, if you do not vent your volcano, okay, it's just going to build and build pressure, and eventually it's going to explode. And that can happen outwardly, where you get super angry, and you create a little bit of chaos. Or it can be extremely introverted, and you can totally mentally shut down. So when we talk about power and control and equality, basically what the controller is doing is, we already, as people without anybody in our lives, have pressure. Okay, a controller increases that pressure, and also pushes the victim into more lava, if you will. It just creates more and more issues that are within this volcano. And if that person loses their voice, goes into isolation, starts reinterpreting and all of that stuff, then it's inevitable that they're going to have like some form of a mental breakdown. Okay, this is part of the reason why there's so much help out there for people who are in abusive or power and control dynamics. They do not want that explosion. They want you to release all of that pressure, and they want to help you do that by any means necessary. So now going back to the coping and all of that, what you want to do is you want to try to identify that subject and that emotion, okay? Because you don't just instantly feel angry. You don't just instantly feel afraid. You don't just instantly feel sad. Okay, there's other things that happen that they combine and create sadness. They create anger. Okay, so if something, start with something that frustrates you. Okay, what is frustrating you? What is confusing you? Oftentimes it's the unknown that is creating stress. So I'm not even sure what is going to happen, but I am stressed out about it while I'm waiting for it to happen. Or I'm trying not to engage in it so that it never happens. And then that anxiety continues to increase, and that creates, for anger, it creates bitterness. For sadness, it creates isolation and low self-esteem. For fear, while fear is a product, or anxiety is what leads to fear. So you want to try to identify what are the things that combined that created this pressure, and how do you deal with those? If you can start breaking down those little things, okay, then you're going to be able to start coming up with solutions for each of those things. And it sounds exhausting, but once you get the swing of it, it really just kind of happens. Now, that's not to say that we're not impulsive. That doesn't mean that raw emotion is not going to produce, anxiety or stresses or things of that nature. However, you will be able to identify how that happened and address it in a positive way. So breaking down the subject in order to identify the emotions that led to it, that built up to it, that is super helpful. Now when you're let's say you're in bed at night, it's dark and you're just trying to sleep but you can't. Okay, this is a great time for that diaphragmatic breathing, belly breathing. This just calms you. I've literally fallen asleep, and I've had insomnia, and I've had a lot of trouble sleeping. And the diaphragmatic breathing, a lot of times, I won't say every time, a lot of times allows me to fall asleep because my mind isn't on anything. I'm just breathing. Same principle with counting sheep. You're just trying to focus your mind on something else. And I try to remember a couple of things. One, tomorrow isn't here yet. So you could worry about it, but it may be just best to have a plan. I'm going to do A, B, C, D, and E and leave it there. The past is gone. You can't change anything. Maybe you want to make it right because you did something that was wrong. So that goes into your tomorrow list. Okay? What happened before, if you can just release what happened before, and I struggle like crazy with this, but if you can release what happened in the past, acknowledging that it's already done, there's nothing you can do to change it, that does have a liberation to it. That does allow you almost to give yourself permission to be in the moment. The only thing that you can do is in the moment that you're in. The other moments, they're all gone, or they haven't come yet. So in this moment, what am I going to pursue? What am I going to try to achieve in this moment? And if you can take your mind off of all the other nonsense, and it's not really nonsense, but I apologize for being insensitive, but if you can take your mind off of all of these details and you can just focus on the present, on that moment, then you'll be able to be more productive in your mind or activities or your sleep. That is like the goal, is get through the moment. Okay. Now, let's say you've had some success getting through the moment. Okay? That does not mean we ignore our responsibilities. That does not mean that we ignore our feelings. Okay? All of the feelings that you have are valid. It doesn't matter anybody else's point of view. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about it or believes about it. What matters is where you are at. Okay? You feel frustrated. You feel annoyed. You feel confused. Those things, and we're just dealing with negative emotions. Positive emotions, I recommend running with the positive emotions, unless you're not dealing with, issues and responsibilities. Definitely want to have that mindset where you are going to accomplish your responsibilities, but try also to hang on to that happiness, that joy. So, now, emotions are valid because you experience them. So whatever that is, like we were saying before with the confusion or, frustration, whatever it is, like acknowledge that it is okay. You're allowed to feel what you feel. It's what you do with those feelings, how you express them, that can create more emotions. So if you're able to focus on that, whatever that is, and are able to process it and say, okay, this is the emotion I'm feeling, this is why, this is what I'm going to do about it. If there's nothing you can do about it, the best thing to do is just accept that it happened. All right, don't let your pride dictate whether or not it happened, whether or not you're going to accept it. Because when your pride gets involved, you want to get defensive, and that creates more anxiety. It creates more emotions, and it's not dealing with the source where all this emotion is initially coming from. Okay, it's a distraction, honestly, and it doesn't really serve you. That's why I think it's so important to have humility when it comes to yourself. Give yourself a break. Now, that is something that I struggle with quite a bit. Like, I don't give myself a break, but I am working on it, and I'm doing better today than I was yesterday. And I'm in the present, and I'm not dealing with it at all right now because I'm talking to you. I'm engaged in something that has my focus. I have self-care. I have self-care that I do as well. I have like a face washing regimen. I have writing. I love to read and do research. I go out at least, I would say I go out once a week. Hang out with my friends. We go out, we have a bite to eat, we have a good time. I meet people, I socialize. There's a lot of things that I do, and it doesn't fix my problems or anything else, but it does give me a release because I'm able to focus on something that has nothing to do with the emotions that I'm feeling or the thoughts that are invoking or creating those emotions. So I'm hoping that this was, straightforward and simple enough. I really think that you're going to be able to get through whatever it is that you're getting through. I mean, the fact that you would even consider watching a video like this to get through those moments is such a big deal. And we may do more. I would say throughout these videos, we'll touch on and we'll hit on more coping mechanisms and more, just more ways to process and get through our subjects and our emotions. We can get through it together. If you want to reach out to me, I've already had some people reach out to me, and I'm happy to be available. So whatever it is that you want to do, I just recommend that it's something that you do with yourself, and then invite people into your process if that is necessary. And if you can accept it, then you can process through it. It's not just letting go. You can process through it. All right. Have a good day. Good luck.